Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this short session on resilience. My name is Yves, and I will be introducing myself in a little more detail later on. But before I do that, I'd like to start with what we call a minute to arrive. And it's a minute because it can be very short, but it's all about arriving in this session and maybe finding a little bit of inner calm before we start. So I'd like to invite you to sit up straight, maybe put your feet flat on the floor, your hands on your knees, and then maybe find a position where you're at the same time relaxed, so you can sit for a little moment, but you're also alert, so you're not falling asleep. And then we simply start by taking deep breath in through the nose, deep breath out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and once more. And next time you breathe out, gently either close your eyes or just lower your gaze, whatever you're comfortable with, and bring your awareness to your breath as you're breathing in and breathing out. Maybe see if you can find this one place in your breath where you can truly feel it. Maybe it's in your nostrils or your throat, the moving of the lungs or your stomach. Just bring some curiosity to this sensation. And then once you find that point, that anchor point, then just stay with it and simply follow your breath, breathing in and breathing out. And if your mind wanders, just gently bring your awareness back to your breath. And every time you breathe out, let go a little more, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your arms, your hands, relaxing your mind, letting go of the day, emails, just arriving in the room where you are and in this session. And then take another deep breath. And bring the awareness back in the room. Feel your feet on the floor, hands on your knees. And when you're ready, gently opening your eyes. We're living in a crazy world at the moment. And there are really two big things at play. And those two big things are really, on one side, the virus and our quest to stay healthy. We all want to be healthy. We all want to be happy. And there's a lot of work being done around strengthening our immune system and bringing some resilience in our life to avoid getting sick. But on the other side, we also have the economy. And the economy is in a terrible shape at the moment in many, many countries. And what we used to call a VUCA world, that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, has amplified over the last couple of weeks. Again, in this area, we also need resilience. Many people are looking for more emotional balance to cope with the results of the VUCA world, whether that's working from home, strained relationships, unpaid leave, reduced hours, furlough, whatever that is. So today, I want to spend 20 minutes to talk a little more about how we can cultivate resilience and optimism to help us in getting through those difficult times. And resilience, and here's an easy definition from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Resilience is an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. It's an interesting definition. And if I look at it, I think in the current times, okay, misfortune is something, but change is the big thing. If I think back, in February, I was leading a large leadership conference in Dubai with over 600 participants, and the world wasn't big enough. We were talking about strategic planning and putting in a new strategic planning process into place, total revenue management. The world, like I said, wasn't big enough. And look where we are today. Change has been amplified absolutely amazingly over the last 2 to 3 months. And yes, misfortune, some of it happened. Some people maybe working reduced hours or being on furlough, not being able to go to their office. Companies are in need of subsidies. So yes, all this change and misfortune happen. And resilience is all about how do we actually deal with that? Because we have to be able to move forward. We have to be able to recover from that and having a perspective on all of that that allows us to move forward. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And within Search Inside Yourself, we argue that we can develop resilience. Resilience is an important emotional intelligence skills as part of motivation, and emotional skills can be trained. And we say we can train resilience on 3 levels. And the first level, which probably is the most important one to start with, is inner calm. And inner calm is what we did a couple of moments ago when we started up, where we tried to settle our mind. And I want to show you what that means. I'm sure you all know what this here is, a snow globe, right? Now, our mind very often these days, or in general, looks a little bit like that. It's like in the morning, I read the newspaper, it's like this. If I watch the news, it's like this. When I read the news on the internet, it's like this. There's so much information out there. There's information overload. And it's very difficult to see clearly. And what inner calm does, it allows us to settle our mind and to see more clearly. And in those difficult times, we're all experiencing emotions. And by starting with inner calm and settling our mind, all of a sudden, we have much more clarity of what's actually going on in ourselves. And that's the starting point of training resilience. Inner calm, taking a moment to stop everything, breathe, and find some inner calm. And for those of you who have seen the sessions of Robert and Barbara, you will have seen some of the exercises that we do to help us with calming our mind, mainly directing awareness to our breath. The second level is emotional resilience. And emotional resilience, we're really looking for equanimity. I think it's a beautiful word, equanimity. And what it means is, how can we actually experience an emotion, fully experience an emotion, without getting carried away by it or without clinging on to it? Now, this is simple but not easy, but it's really about using this inner calm that we talked about before that helps us to see more clearly, to really experience our emotion, trying to find out what is it that's happening. And in the previous session, you heard about emotions and that emotions are actually physiological effects from a stimulus, and that we can actually experience emotions physiologically in our body. So by seeing more clearly and being able to really identify what is the emotion I am feeling and experiencing and maybe labeling it, this helps us to keep a certain distance and don't get carried away by it. Equanimity. We then have the third level, and the third level is cognitive resilience. So once I find inner calm and I can settle my mind to see more clearly, I can then experience my emotion, I can maybe label the emotion and become an observer to my emotion. I have to find a way to explain myself what's actually going on now and find a perspective that helps me to move forward. And that's what cognitive resilience is all about. And we're drawing from a study from positive psychology by Dr. Martin Seligman, who was one of the founding fathers of positive psychology. And he talks about explanatory style. And in the context of resilience, often this is about interpretation of a setback, but it can also just be an emotionally difficult situation. And as human beings, we have really two different ways of explaining situations to us. I'm sure you know what those two are. We have either a more pessimistic way of explaining a situation, or we have a more optimistic way of explaining situations. And if you look at the spectrum, for those of you who have studied psychology, you know that personality traits, usually anybody falls somewhere on a scale from one side to the other. You have pessimism on one side, optimism on the other side, and we all fall somewhere on that scale. But let's look at the extremes. So the pessimist, and we're using the 3P to explain this, the pessimist takes things very personal. So individuals who are naturally more pessimistic, they see any setbacks as personal. They feel this is an indication of their own performance, of their own personality, of themselves, that they are a failure. They also believe that this is permanent. This is not something that blows over, but it's something that is here to stay, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel because it is permanent. Pessimists also believe that situations like this are pervasive through all areas of life. Whether that's at work, family, friends, community, it applies everywhere. On the other side of the spectrum, the optimist sees the world very differently. The optimist says, no, this is not really personal because it is based on current causes and conditions. Currently, we have COVID-19, and a lot of what is happening is because of this crisis. The optimist also sees that those kind of situations are not permanent. They are temporary. This will go over. We will get back to maybe not normal, but we will get over the crisis. And the optimist also says, this is not pervasive into other areas of my life. This is very much centered to my work, or maybe at home, a relationship, or whatever it is. Now, some of you may say, well, the optimism maybe just tries to explain things away. No, not really. And again, think about the scale, that we all fall somewhere on the scale, and maybe somebody that's extremely optimistic might be explaining things away from times to times. But in general, the optimist just has a healthier perspective on things that allows him or her to actually move forward. Explanatory styles. Now, optimism is great. Now, my question to you would be, if you're experiencing a challenging situation, and I'm sure there's many of them that happened over the last couple of weeks, but think about a challenging situation. Now, what were your first thoughts? Were they really optimistic? Or was there a good chance they started on the more pessimistic side? Oh my God, why is it me? It's always me. We are naturally more negative. And being naturally more negative has helped us to survive for millions of years, right? At the end of the day, this is evolution. Many years ago, the job of our amygdala was, and still is today, to scan the environment for dangers and to warn us of dangers. And the negativity bias sort of helped us over the years to survive. Nowadays, we live in an environment where we don't necessarily have saber-toothed tigers around the corner anymore. The world looks very different, but there is still danger. And we, by evolution, have what we call a negativity bias. If you do a session like this and 50 people tell you, oh, Yves, this was great, and one person at the end tells you, nah, Yves, this didn't really hit the mark. Well, guess what we're going to remember? It's that one person. And the other 50 is like, yeah, but it's that one person you're going to remember. So yeah, cultivating optimism starts by becoming aware of our negativity bias. Knowing that if an emotionally difficult situation comes up or a setback, knowing that our mind will start rattling down that negative speech way. It's going to be this little voice that tells you, why me? Why again me? Why not somebody else? And it's all about bringing mindfulness to it and actually really feeling what's going on in my body. What are the emotions I'm experiencing here? Finding that inner calm. And then try to transform, trying to move from a more pessimistic explanatory style to an optimistic explanatory style. This is temporary, this is not personal, this is not pervasive throughout my life. So we can actually cultivate optimism. And I want to try that out with you in a small exercise. And again, I'd like you to think about this situation again, this maybe an emotionally charged situation, or maybe a setback. And I'll just give you a moment to think about it. And I'm sure there's many moments that were difficult these last few weeks. And then I'd like to invite you to sit up straight, have your feet on the floor and hands on your knees again. And then take a couple of deep breaths, breathing in and breathing out. And next time you breathe out, closing your eyes. And let's start together by finding this inner calm, directing the attention to this anchor in our breath. And every time you breathe out, let go a little more. And feel how your mind settles and things become clearer in front of our eyes. And let's now bring to mind a setback, either one you recently experienced or one that you're afraid you might experience in the future. And bring some details about this event to your mind. Where were you? Who was with you? What happened? And as best as you can, bringing up the emotions this setback might cause for you. Let's bring in some curious and kind attention, checking in on your general mental and emotional condition. Does it feel like there are a lot of thoughts and emotions present? Or does it feel dull and hard to access? How do you talk to yourself about the setback and what it means? Are there thoughts like, why me? I'm not good enough. I should have known. What emotions might be underneath these thoughts? Could you label them, give them a name? Can you locate them in your body? Scanning for sensations in the face, shoulders, neck, back. Often when a strong emotion arises, we turn away from it, seeing what it might be like to gently stay with the emotions, like listening to a good friend who is sharing about something very difficult. Perhaps bringing a sense of kindness to the emotions, knowing that whatever emotions have come up for you have also been experienced by many others as well. And now, let's explore some possibilities for transformation. If you notice yourself taking the setback personally, consider if you were talking to a friend who had just experienced this same setback, what would you say to him or her? Would you tell them it's okay? Would you offer them a broader perspective on the situation? And if you notice a belief that the setback is permanent, consider what could happen afterwards. And after that, and after that. Considering this setback not as an end, but as another step in a long journey. And finally, what values do you hold which can rely on for direction and strength in yourself? And now checking in with yourself again. What thoughts are present in the head? How are you talking to yourself about this situation now? And how does your body feel now? What emotions are being expressed? Let's now move towards closing this practice by returning attention to the breath. And then bring the awareness back in the room you're in, feeling your feet on the floor and hands on your legs. Take another deep breath and then gently open your eyes again. This is what we call a dedicated practice. But in mindfulness, the beautiful thing is that for any dedicated practice, there's also an integrated practice. And within Search Inside Yourself, we teach a number of practices. And in the area of resilience, I always like to introduce what I call an acceptance practice, which you can do at any given time. Every time you feel a little overwhelmed, just use this one. Breathing in, I do my best. Breathing out, let go of the rest. It's a very simple, integrated practice that helps us to find this inner calm, cultivate more optimism, and ultimately develop more resilience. Very easy. Breathing in, I do my best. Breathing out, let go of the rest. This brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed and found something that was helpful in this, what we call nugget. If you haven't seen the other sessions from Barbara and Robert on emotional intelligence and mindfulness or self-awareness and self-regulation, please go and have a look at those sessions as well. They're absolutely fantastic. Our 3 sessions sort of come together to give you a taste of what Search Inside Yourself is all about. And if you'd like to learn more about it and ask us questions, please join us for the live discussion and webinar with Q&As where Barbara, Robert and myself will be present. And with that, I'd like to thank you for being with me for the last 20 minutes. I wish you all the best, best of luck and good health. Thank you very much. Probably